I thought I knew my husband. We fell in love back in college. He used to bring me coffee before lectures, laugh at my terrible jokes, and once, on the cold dormitory steps, he told me, "Margaret, one day I'm going to marry you." And he did. A small wedding, a house with a wooden porch, a daughter we loved more than anything. I believed our story would last forever. Until one day I decided to surprise him. I simply brought him lunch at work. And that's when I saw her. Young, beautiful. Her hand rested on his shoulder like she had every right to be there. And when Justin looked up and saw me, I knew the truth before he said a single word. In that moment my life split into before and after. And I had no idea that the most painful story of my life was just beginning.
Love Stories Max. Welcome to my channel. Enjoy watching, friends.
I brought my husband lunch and saw his young coworker hugging him. I still remember that September morning at the university. The air smelled like wet leaves and coffee from the small kiosk near the library. That's exactly where I saw Justin for the first time. He was standing in line, holding a thick economics book under his arm. His dark hair was slightly messy, like he had just woken up, and there was that smile on his face, the same smile that would later become home to me. "Are you standing here for coffee or for inspiration?" he asked when he noticed me looking at his book. I laughed. That's how everything began. We started sitting together during lectures. Justin always brought 2 cups of coffee, one for himself and one for me. Sometimes he would draw silly cartoons in the margins of my notebook, and I would pretend to be annoyed. I remember one cold winter night. We were sitting on the dormitory steps, wrapped in one scarf. Suddenly he said, "Margaret, I think one day I'm going to marry you." I laughed back then. "You haven't even asked me out on a date." "This is the date," he replied. 3 years later he proposed to me right next to that same coffee kiosk. Our wedding was small. My mom decorated the hall with white roses, and Justin kept nervously adjusting his tie the entire time. When we danced our first dance, he whispered, "Now you're mine forever." And I believed him. Our life was simple and warm. A small house with a wooden porch. A kitchen that smelled like toast and coffee in the mornings. Justin loved making omelets on Sundays, even though he always added too much salt. Then our daughter was born, Emily. When Justin held her for the first time, he cried. "I didn't know it was possible to love this much," he said. And I looked at him and thought I was the luckiest woman in the world. Years passed. Work, bills, school, exhaustion. But we were still a team. At least that's what I thought. Everything started changing almost imperceptibly. Justin began staying late at work. At first once a week. Then more often. "New project," he would say. He started looking at his phone more. Sometimes he smiled at the screen. I would ask, "Something funny?" "Just work jokes." And I believed him. One evening he came home smelling like someone else's perfume. A light, sweet scent that I had never worn. "Did someone in your office bathe in perfume?" I joked. He answered too quickly. "Probably." Back then, I didn't understand. And then one day I saw her. I came to Justin's office to surprise him. I brought him lunch. His favorite turkey sandwich. She was standing next to his desk. Young, very beautiful, long shiny hair, bright lipstick, a laugh that sounded a little too confident. She leaned toward him to show something on the laptop and placed her hand on his shoulder. It was that gesture, the kind only a person who has already crossed the line knows. Justin looked up and saw me. His face changed in a second. "Margaret, you're here?" "I brought lunch," I said quietly. The girl looked at me with a slight smile. "Oh, you must be Justin's wife." "I'm Sophie. We work together." Her voice was too calm. That evening Justin barely spoke. And a few weeks later the truth came out anyway. I saw the message. "I miss you." Last night was perfect. My heart felt like it stopped. I sat in the kitchen staring at the phone screen while the clock ticked on the wall. When Justin walked in, I simply asked, "How long?" He stayed silent for a long time. "A few months." Those words fell between us like a stone dropped into water. "Why?" I whispered. He ran his hand through his hair. "I don't know, she's young." Everything just felt easy. Easy, as if our life together was some kind of burden. I looked at the man I had loved for half my life and didn't recognize him anymore. "And me?" I asked. He didn't answer. That night I sat beside Emily's bed and watched her sleep. Her small hand was holding the plush teddy bear Justin gave her for her 5th birthday. I thought about the university steps. About that scarf. About his words, "I'm going to marry you." And for the first time in my life I understood a terrible truth. Sometimes the people who once promised to love you forever become the ones who break your heart the most. But the most painful part wasn't even that. The most painful part was realizing that the man who once looked at me like I was his entire world was now looking at another woman the same way. I thought the worst moment had already happened. But I was wrong. The real pain came later, when the silence in our house became louder than any words. After that conversation in the kitchen, we barely spoke. Justin tried to act as if things could still go back to the way they were. He made coffee in the mornings like he used to and left my cup on the table. But I never drank it anymore. One evening he quietly said, "Margaret, please, can we talk?" I was standing by the sink washing a plate that was already clean. "About what?" "About us." The word sounded strange, like it didn't belong to us anymore. I turned around. "Justin, you destroyed us." He looked like the words physically hurt him. "I made a mistake." "No," I said softly. "A mistake is when someone accidentally breaks a cup. You cheated for months." He said nothing. That night he slept on the couch. I lay in our bed staring at the empty side of the pillow. It still smelled like his shampoo. And I cried quietly so Emily wouldn't hear. A few weeks later, I filed for divorce. When Justin received the papers, he came home earlier than usual. His hands were shaking. "Are you serious?" he whispered. "Yes." "Margaret, no, please." It was the first time I had ever seen him cry. I ended everything with her. It was stupid. I was an idiot. I looked at him and felt my heart tighten. "You only ended it after I found out." He lowered his head. "I'll fix everything. I swear. Some things can't be fixed." After that day he started coming almost every evening. With flowers. With letters. With eyes red from sleepless nights. One time he stood outside our house in the rain for almost an hour. When I opened the door, he was completely soaked. "I just wanted to see you," he said quietly. "Justin, please, don't do this. I can't live without you." His voice broke. "I don't sleep anymore. I keep thinking about college, about that scarf, about our wedding. Margaret, you are my life." I felt tears burning in my eyes. "Then why did you destroy it?" He had no answer. Our divorce happened on a quiet gray morning. The courtroom was small and cold. Everything lasted less than 20 minutes. 20 minutes, to end a story that lasted 15 years. As we walked out of the courthouse, Justin suddenly stopped. "Margaret." I turned around. His eyes were full of tears. "I'll wait for you, even if it takes the rest of my life." My heart shattered. I wanted to believe him so badly. But trust is like glass. Once it's broken, you can glue it back together. But the cracks stay forever. I sat in the car for a long time, holding the steering wheel. And for the first time in many years, I understood something painful but honest. I still loved him, but sometimes love is no longer enough to save what has already been destroyed. And as I drove away, I saw in the mirror Justin standing alone on the sidewalk. The same man who once promised to make me the happiest woman in the world. Now he was just standing there, crying. 3 years passed. Sometimes I think time heals. And sometimes I think it just teaches you how to live with the pain. We sold our house after the divorce. I moved into a small apartment closer to Emily's school. It had big windows and a lot of light, but some evenings it felt too quiet. Too empty. Life became different. I worked more, learned how to fix things around the apartment, drove Emily to her activities, helped with homework. Justin and I only saw each other because of our daughter. School performances, birthdays, short conversations in parking lots. He always looked older. Like those 3 years had taken 10 from him. I knew he never dated anyone else. Mutual friends sometimes mentioned him. He worked, went home, sometimes ran in the evenings. And he wrote to me. At first often, then less, but he never stopped. I still think about you. I know I don't deserve a second chance. But if someday, I almost never replied. One autumn day I was picking Emily up from school. The air was cold and smelled like wet leaves. And suddenly I saw him. Justin was standing near the school gate. In his hand was a paper cup of coffee. Exactly like the ones he used to bring me. For a second I felt like a student again. Like he was about to smile and say something silly. But that was another life. When he saw me, he took a few uncertain steps. "Hi, Margaret." His voice was quieter than I remembered. "Hi." A long silence hung between us. "I happened to be nearby," he said. I knew that wasn't true. Justin had never been a good liar. The wind moved his hair slightly, and I suddenly noticed gray strands. He didn't have those before. "How are you?" he asked. I shrugged. "I'm okay." He looked down, then back at me. "I still sometimes walk past our old house." Those words hit me unexpectedly. "There are different people living there now," I said. "I know." He took a breath. "Margaret, I still?" He stopped, as if he didn't have the right to finish the sentence. 3 years, he said quietly. "And not a single day when I didn't think about you." I felt my heart tighten painfully. "Justin, I know," he said quickly. "I know I destroyed everything. I know I don't deserve you." His eyes were shining with tears. "But I want you to know. I really did love you. And I still do." At that moment Emily ran out of the school. "Mom." She hugged me and then saw him. "Dad." She ran into his arms. Justin lifted her and closed his eyes for a moment. I realized he was holding back tears. When Emily ran ahead toward the car, silence returned between us. "Are you happy?" he asked quietly. It was the hardest question. I stayed silent for a long time. "I'm at peace." He nodded, and I saw something very sad in his eyes. Like he understood more than I had said. Before leaving he suddenly said, "If I could go back to that day." His voice broke. "I would never do it." I looked at him and felt something old, something buried long ago, ache quietly inside me. But some doors, once closed, never open again. When I got into the car, Emily asked, "Mom, will you and Dad ever get back together?" I looked in the rearview mirror. Justin was still standing near the school, alone, watching us drive away. I answered softly, "Sometimes people love each other very much, but they still can't be together." Several more years passed. Emily was almost an adult now. She laughed the same loud, warm laugh Justin used to have back in college. Sometimes when she smiled, my heart tightened, because I saw him in her. Life slowly became calmer. I learned how to live alone. I learned not to look back every single day. But the truth is that some stories never fully end. They just quietly live somewhere inside your heart. One evening I was going through old boxes. Emily was getting ready to apply to college, and I was looking for some of her childhood photos. And suddenly I found an envelope. My name was written on it. Justin's handwriting. My heart froze. I opened it slowly, almost afraid of what might be inside. Inside the envelope there was a letter. And an old photograph. The same photo from college. The two of us sitting on the dorm steps wrapped in one scarf, laughing. I began to read. "Margaret, I don't know if you will ever read this letter. But if you do, it means many years have passed. I'm not writing this to win you back. I understood a long time ago that some mistakes can never be fixed. I just want you to know the truth. You were the best part of my life. Every day after our divorce I kept thinking about the moment when I could have made a different choice, and everything would have been different. I didn't just lose my wife. I lost my home, I lost my best friend, and I destroyed it myself. But even after everything, there is one thing I will always be grateful for. That on a September morning near the university library, I met you. I will always love you. Justin. My hands were shaking. I sat on the floor for a long time holding that letter. And for the first time in many years I allowed myself to cry without holding it back. Not only because of the pain, but because once, we were truly happy. And do you know what I understood that evening? Life is very strange. Sometimes people love each other with all their hearts. But they make one mistake that changes everything. One weak moment, one wrong decision, and an entire story will never be the same again. But there is one thing I understood after many years. Love is not only a feeling. Love is a choice. A choice to stay every day. A choice to protect what you have. A choice not to destroy something that might one day become your whole world. Because sometimes, a second chance never comes. Thank you for watching. Subscribe to my channel so you don't miss new stories. And also write in the comments how you liked this story on a scale of 1 to 5. Watch the following video and enjoy watching.